Can you truly trust the person sitting across from you when the stakes are life-altering? Imagine you are sharing a small table with a stranger, and both of your futures depend on a single, silent choice. If you both cooperate, you both survive. If one of you betrays the other, the betrayer walks away with everything, while the other loses it all. What do you do? Welcome to Sleepy Mind Lab. I am so glad you are here with me tonight. Go ahead and find a comfortable space where you can fully relax. Let go of the tension of the day and simply listen. Tonight, we are going to explore 45 different scenarios in game theory. These are vivid human stories about strategy, trust, betrayal, and the complex choices we make when we are pushed to our absolute limits. We will look at how we cooperate, why we compete, and what happens when our deep survival instincts clash with cold, rational logic. From small, everyday agreements to large global conflicts, these thought experiments reveal the hidden rules of how we behave when the pressure is on. Let us begin. Will we choose cooperation when the price of trust is too high? The prisoner dilemma. Imagine two people sitting in separate, cold rooms. The walls are made of grey concrete, damp and silent. There are no windows, only a heavy metal door that locks from the outside. They cannot speak to each other. They cannot send a message. Each person is facing the exact same choice, and the stakes are their own freedom. A detective walks into each room and offers them a deal. If both players remain silent and protect each other, they will each serve 1 small year in prison on minor charges. If one confesses and betrays the other while the other stays silent, the betrayer goes free immediately, and the silent partner receives a harsh 10-year sentence. But if both decide to confess and betray each other, they will both get 5 years. They are left alone with their thoughts, staring at the walls, wondering what the other person is going to do. Let us think about what happens inside their minds as they sit in the quiet. The logical move seems obvious. If you believe your partner will stay silent, you should confess, because going free is better than 1 year in prison. If you believe your partner will betray you, you must also confess, because 5 years is better than 10. No matter what the other person does, confessing seems to be the best choice for you. This is the trap. When both people choose the logical path of self-interest, they both confess, and they both end up with 5 years. Yet, if they had simply trusted each other and stayed silent, they would have walked away with only 1 year each. Their individual logic leads directly to their shared ruin. Game theorists call this point of mutual betrayal the Nash equilibrium, a state where neither person can improve their situation by changing their decision alone. However, when real human beings are put into this scenario in laboratory experiments, something beautiful happens. They do not act like cold, calculating machines. In actual studies, people choose to cooperate and stay silent far more often than pure game theory predicts. We have a deep instinct for trust, a quiet voice that whispers that we are in this together, even when the walls are thick and the silence is heavy. We are wired to hope for the best in others, even when betrayal is the safest option on paper. We are social creatures, shaped by thousands of generations of living in communities where trust was our greatest shield. But what happens when cooperation requires absolute coordination to survive, like a hunt in the wild? The Stag Hunt. A silent, misty forest at dawn surrounds two hunters who have been waiting for several hours. Their goal is to capture a magnificent stag. If they succeed, there will be enough food to feed both of their families for weeks. But capturing this stag requires absolute coordination. If either hunter moves or leaves their post, the stag will hear the rustle of leaves and leap away, leaving both of them with nothing. Suddenly, a small hare rustles through the grass near one of the hunters. It is small, but it represents guaranteed food. One hunter can easily catch it alone, but doing so means breaking rank and abandoning the shared mission. If one hunter grabs the hare, that hunter eats today. But the other partner, still waiting silently for the stag, goes home empty-handed. If both hunters stand firm, they win the ultimate prize. This classic dilemma is known as the stag hunt. Unlike situations where people are driven to actively harm each other, this scenario is about the fragile nature of trust and coordination. There is no malice here. If both players trust each other completely, they both get the best possible outcome. Yet, the moment one person suspects the other might doubt them, the entire agreement collapses. It is a game of mutual belief. If I believe you will wait, I will wait. But if I believe you think I will leave, then I expect you to leave, which forces me to leave first. This spiral of doubt can destroy even the most beneficial partnerships before they even begin. When researchers bring this scenario into the laboratory with real people, they observe a powerful pattern. When people play this game for real stakes, the fear of what the other person might do dominates their decisions. Even though everyone wants the large prize, the mere possibility that the other player will choose the safe option causes people to run. They choose the safe, small reward because they do not want to be left holding nothing while their partner walks away with the prize. We learn that in situations requiring deep coordination, trust is exceptionally hard to maintain when a safe escape route is always available. In our daily lives, we face these choices constantly. We see them in business partnerships, global environmental treaties, and team projects. Everyone agrees that the cooperative goal is better, but the fear of coordination failure drives us toward isolated safety. We grab our individual hares because we cannot be sure the other person will stay in the cold, misty forest with us. How do humans react when offered a chance to split a free gift, but one holds all the power? The Ultimatum Game. Consider two strangers sitting opposite each other at a small table in a quiet room. A researcher enters and places a crisp $100 bill on the table. The rules of the game are very simple. The first person, whom we will call the proposer, must offer a portion of this money to the second person, the responder. The proposer can offer any amount they choose, from a single dollar to the entire sum. The responder has only two choices. They can accept the offer, meaning both people walk away with the agreed split, or they can reject the offer. If the responder rejects it, the researcher takes the $100 back, and both players leave with absolutely nothing. There are no negotiations, no second chances, and the two strangers will never see each other again. If we examine this scenario through the lens of pure logic and self-interest, the solution seems obvious. The responder should accept any offer that is greater than zero. If the proposer offers a single dollar and keeps 99, the responder should eagerly accept. After all, $1 is still better than zero. A purely rational machine would always choose a tiny gain over nothing at all. But humans do not act like cold, calculating machines. When researchers run this experiment in labs across the world, a very consistent and unsettling pattern emerges. When the proposer offers less than 30% of the total sum, the responder almost always rejects it. They willingly choose to go home empty-handed. They actively decide to receive nothing, simply to ensure that the greedy proposer also gets nothing. This reaction is driven by a deep, burning desire to punish unfairness, even at a direct personal cost. It is an act of spite, but it serves a vital evolutionary purpose. In our ancient past, human survival depended on mutual cooperation. Allowing selfish individuals to exploit the group would destroy the cohesion of the tribe. By sacrificing a small personal gain to punish a greedy partner, we protect the social contract. We pay a price to enforce fairness and teach others that selfishness has consequences. Our minds are hardwired to value justice over pure logic. What if we remove the power to reject the offer entirely? The Dictator Game. Imagine sitting in a quiet, dimly lit room. On the wooden table in front of you sits a crisp, green $20 bill. A voice over a loudspeaker tells you that this money is yours, but there is a catch. You must decide how to split it with a stranger sitting in another room. This stranger will never see your face, will never know your name, and has absolutely no power to reject your offer. Whatever you decide to give them, they must accept. If you keep $19 and give them $1, they receive $1. If you decide to keep all $20 and give them $0, they leave with nothing, and you walk away with the full amount. There is no threat of retaliation, no fear of social embarrassment, and no chance of a future confrontation. You hold absolute, uncontested power. Standard economic textbooks predict a very simple, cold outcome. Since theory assumes that humans are perfectly rational and purely self-interested, you should keep every single penny. Giving even 1 cent away reduces your own wealth, and since the other person cannot punish you, there is no logical reason to share. But when scientists run this study in real laboratories with real people, a far more complex side of human nature appears. Instead of keeping all the money, a large majority of participants choose to send some cash to the stranger. Often, people choose to give away about 20 or 30% of the total amount. A significant number of individuals even split the money exactly down the middle, giving away a full $10 to a person they will never meet. Why do we do this when we have absolutely nothing to gain? Researchers suggest we are driven by 2 powerful forces. The first is genuine empathy, a quiet voice that makes us feel the needs of another human being. The second force is our own self-image. We want to look in the mirror and see a good, fair person. We are willing to pay a financial cost just to maintain that positive view of ourselves. We share because we care about who we are when nobody is watching. This quiet act of giving highlights a deep reality of human cooperation. We are not merely cold calculators of profit. We carry a silent, built-in desire to be fair, even when we are completely invisible. But what if the challenge is not about dividing a gift that has already been handed to us? What if the pool of resources depends entirely on how much everyone willingly contributes? The public goods game. Think back to your school days, specifically to the dread of the dreaded group project. You probably remember the anxiety of being paired with 4 other students to create a presentation. You spend your weekend researching, writing slides, and polishing the final layout. Meanwhile, one of your partners does absolutely nothing, yet they receive the exact same grade as you. It feels unfair, and it leaves a bitter taste in your mouth. This common frustration is the perfect entry point into a classic social experiment known as the public goods game. Imagine 4 people sitting around a table. Each person is given $20 at the start of the round. They are told they can keep all of it, or they can choose to put some or all of their money into a shared community pot. The rules are simple. Every dollar placed into the community pot is instantly multiplied by 2. Then, that total amount in the pot is divided equally among all 4 players, regardless of how much money each individual actually contributed. If everyone is generous and puts their entire $20 into the pot grows to $80. The game host doubles it to $160. When split 4 ways, everyone walks away with $40. Everyone doubles their money. It is a perfect outcome. But a quiet temptation begins to creep into the room. What happens if you decide to keep your $20 in your pocket and contribute nothing, while the other 3 players contribute their full $20? The pot gets $60 from them, which doubles to $120. When that is split 4 ways, everyone gets $30 from the pot. But since you kept your original $20, you walk away with $50. The others only get $30. You have successfully exploited the group. You are a free rider. When researchers run this experiment over 10 rounds, a distinct pattern emerges. In the first round, most people are optimistic. They contribute about half of their money. But as the rounds progress, people notice that some players are coasting along on the generosity of others. The contributors feel cheated. To protect themselves, they start contributing less. By the 10th round, cooperation completely collapses. Almost everyone contributes zero. Trust lies in ruins. However, the researchers introduced a twist. They added a new rule. Players could spend one of their own dollars to take away $3 from a free rider. Mathematically, this makes no sense because punishing others costs you money. Yet, when given the chance, players eagerly pay to punish the freeloaders. Once the free riders realize they will be punished, they quickly start contributing again. Cooperation is restored, but only through the threat of penalty. How far down a path of trust can two people walk before one decides to steal it all? The Centipede Game. Consider two business partners sitting across a dusty wooden table under the dim glow of a single hanging bulb. Between them sits a ticking clock and a small pile of dollar bills. The rules of their game are deceptively simple. Each partner has a choice when it is their turn. They can either take the larger share of the pile right now, which ends the game immediately, or they can pass the pile across the table to their partner. If they pass, the pile grows significantly, but the other partner gets the next turn and could choose to take the larger share, leaving the first person with very little. If they cooperate and keep passing the pile back and forth, the money will grow to a massive sum, and both will walk away rich. It seems like the obvious choice, but game theory introduces a cold, calculating logic called backward induction. To understand what will happen in this scenario, we must start at the very end of the game and work our way backward. Suppose we are at the final round, say round 100. The pile is at its largest. The player whose turn it is knows that if they pass, the game ends and the other player gets the larger share of the money. So, at the final step, a rational player will always take the money. But the other player, anticipating this move in the 99th round, knows they will get next to nothing if they pass. So they decide to take the money in the 99th round. This logic crawls backward, step by step, all the way to the very beginning. The mathematics of pure rationality predicts a devastating outcome. The first player will take the money on the very first turn, ending the game immediately with only pennies in hand. The trust is destroyed before it even begins. Yet, when researchers run this experiment with real people, something beautiful and tragic happens. Humans do not act like cold calculators. We pass the pile. We trust. We watch the money grow, round after round, building a fragile bridge of cooperation. But then, as the pile becomes larger and the end draws near, the fear of betrayal creeps in. Someone eventually panics and takes the money, collapsing the house of cards. We want to trust, but the fear of being the fool eventually overrides our goodwill. What if saving the group requires just one person to make a sacrifice, without knowing if anyone else will? The volunteer dilemma. Imagine a warm summer night in a quiet neighborhood. Suddenly, the lights flicker and die. The entire street plunges into darkness. The air conditioning hums to a halt, leaving only the sound of crickets. You sit there in the dark, looking out the window. You see the houses across the street are also pitch black. Everyone is sitting in their living rooms, waiting for the power to return. To fix this, someone needs to call the electricity company. It is a minor hassle. You have to find your phone, look up the number, navigate an automated menu, and wait on hold for 10 minutes. That is the cost. It is a small sacrifice of time. If you do it, everyone on the street benefits. The power company gets the message and the lights come back on. But if you do not do it, you can just sit comfortably on your couch, hoping one of your neighbors is making that annoying call right now. If someone else calls, You get the light back without spending any effort. But what if everyone thinks the same way? What if every single person on the street assumes someone else has already made the call? Hours pass. The ice melts in the freezers, and the street remains in total darkness. This situation is known to game theorists as the volunteer dilemma. It is a social puzzle where a group of people all need a single volunteer to step forward and perform a task. If one person does it, everyone wins. But if no one does it, everyone suffers. The trouble is that volunteering carries a small cost. Everyone wants the benefit, but everyone also wants to avoid the cost. There is a strange mathematical paradox at the heart of this dilemma. We naturally feel that a larger group makes us safer. We think that if there are 100 people in a group, surely someone will step forward. Yet, the math tells a different story. As the group grows larger, the probability that any single person will volunteer actually shrinks. If you are in a room of 3 people, you feel a strong weight of responsibility. If you do not act, the group is highly likely to fail. But in a crowd of 1,000, that feeling of responsibility evaporates. You assume that someone else, someone more qualified or less busy, will take care of it. When everyone thinks this way, large groups can freeze in a silent standoff, waiting for a savior who never arrives. What happens when people bid on something worthless, trapped by the fear of losing what they already spent? The dollar auction. Imagine standing in a warm, crowded room where an auctioneer holds up a single, crisp $1 bill. The rules are simple. Anyone can bid. The highest bidder gets the $1 bill. But there is a catch. The second place bidder also has to pay their highest bid, and they get absolutely nothing in return. At first, it seems like easy money. Someone bids 10 cents. Another bids 20 cents. Why not? It is a free profit. The bids climb quickly. 50 cents, 70 cents, 80 cents. The atmosphere is light, even playful. But as the bidding crosses 90 cents, the room grows quiet. The tension rises. A person bids 90 cents, hoping to win. Another bids 95 cents. Now the 90-cent bidder realizes that if they stop, they lose 90 cents for nothing. So they bid $1. At this point, the best they can do is break even. But the person who bid 95 cents is about to lose 95 cents. To prevent this loss, they bid $1.05. This is the moment the trap springs shut. The bids have now bypassed the actual value of the prize. The room watches in silence as 2 bidders, locked in a battle of pride and fear, push the price up to $2, then $5, and then even higher. They are no longer playing to win $1. They are playing to minimize their loss. This strange game is called the dollar auction, and it reveals a deep flaw in how human minds calculate value. We have an instinctual, deep-seated dread of losing what we have already put into a venture. Economists call this the sunk cost fallacy. Once we invest time, money, or emotion into something, walking away feels like admitting defeat. So we double down. We stay in bad relationships, hoping the next year will justify the last 5. We pour more money into a failing business because we cannot bear to see our initial investment go to waste. On a national scale, this same mechanism keeps countries locked in prolonged military conflicts. Leaders send more troops into a hopeless war because they feel they must honor the sacrifice of those who have already fallen, only to lose even more lives in the process. We keep bidding on a dollar bill that has already cost us 5. The only way to win this game is to never place the first bid, or to have the rare courage to walk away the moment the trap is set. Can crowds coordinate their choices when there is no communication, and everyone wants to go where it is quiet? The Farol Bar Problem. Imagine it is a Friday evening. You are tired after a long week of work, and you want to visit your favorite local diner. It is a cozy place with warm lighting, soft music, and excellent food. But there is a catch. You only want to go if it is not too crowded. In fact, you and everyone else in town agree on one specific rule. You will only enjoy the evening if the diner is less than 60% full. If it is more crowded than that, you would rather stay home in the quiet comfort of your living room. Now, think about the quiet dilemma this creates. Every person in town is sitting at home, looking at the clock, trying to guess what everyone else will do. If you think the diner will be empty, you will decide to go. But since everyone else thinks the same way, they will all make the same choice, and the diner will be packed. You will arrive only to find a noisy, crowded room, wishing you had stayed home. On the other hand, if you predict that the diner will be overflowing, you will choose to stay home. But if everyone else predicts a crowd and stays home, the diner ends up completely empty. You miss out on a wonderful, quiet night that you could have enjoyed in peace. This is the core of the paradox. There is no simple, rational way to make a perfect choice, because your decision depends entirely on what you expect others to do, while their decision depends on what they expect you to do. When economists studied this scenario, they discovered that humans do not act like perfect, all-knowing computers. Instead, we use simple rules of thumb, trying our best to adapt to a changing environment. One person might look at how crowded it was last week. Another might average the last 4 weeks. Another might simply do the opposite of whatever happened yesterday. Because everyone uses slightly different, messy ways of guessing, a beautiful thing happens. The crowd self-organizes. Over time, the number of people who show up begins to hover right around that 60% mark, shifting back and forth in a delicate, chaotic dance. We solve the impossible math, not with perfect logic, but with our diverse, imperfect instincts. What if you must choose what to wear or value based entirely on what you think everyone else will value? The Keynesian beauty contest. Imagine sitting in a dimly lit parlor in the 1930s, holding a morning newspaper. Sprawled across the page are 100 photographs of faces. A contest stands before you, offering a simple prize. Your task is not to choose the face you find most beautiful. Instead, you must select the 6 faces that the majority of other readers will also choose as the most beautiful. This thought experiment, created by the economist John Maynard Keynes, reveals a deep, dizzying puzzle about how we make decisions when our success depends entirely on predicting the minds of others. If you play this game, you quickly realize that choosing based on your personal taste is a losing strategy. You have to step outside your own mind. You might begin by thinking about what the average person considers attractive. That is the first level of strategic thinking. But then you realize that everyone else is also trying to do the exact same thing. So, you must climb to the second level of this mental ladder. You try to guess what the average person thinks the average person will choose. This process does not stop there. It quickly spins into a recursive loop, an infinite hallway of mirrors where you look at reflections of reflections. You start to ponder what they think you think they think. You are no longer looking at the faces on the page. Instead, you are staring into the minds of a crowd that is staring right back at you. We see this exact behavior play out in the modern stock market. When people buy shares of a technology startup or a new digital currency, they are often not looking at the actual value of the company. They are trying to predict what other investors will be willing to pay for that stock tomorrow. If they believe everyone else will get excited and buy, they will buy today to get ahead of the wave. This collective guessing game can drive prices higher and higher, creating massive speculative bubbles. We do not buy because we love the asset. We buy because we believe others will love it tomorrow. It is a fragile dance of expectations, where a sudden shift in what we believe others are thinking can bring the whole system crashing down. When we play these games of prediction, we are constantly trying to stay one step ahead of a crowd that is trying to stay one step ahead of us. What happens when two fast-moving cars head straight for one another and neither wants to turn? The game of chicken. Two heavy steel cars speed toward each other on a narrow, dusty desert road. The afternoon sun is blinding, and the hot air shimmers off the asphalt. Each driver sees the other rushing closer, a metal beast roaring at 90 miles per hour. If one driver swerves, they survive, but they carry the lifelong shame of being called a chicken. The driver who keeps going straight wins the glory. But if both drivers refuse to turn, they crash in a fiery collision, and both die. This game is all about who blinks first. If you swerve and the other person keeps driving straight, you lose face and the crowd laughs at you. If you both swerve, it is a tie, and you both feel a little embarrassed but alive. The worst outcome, the absolute nightmare, is the head-on crash. In this high-stakes game, the player who can convincingly act irrational has the upper hand. If you can make the other driver believe that you are truly reckless, or perhaps even completely out of your mind, they will be forced to yield to you. Think of being one of those drivers. As the other car gets closer, you lock eyes with the other driver. Suddenly, you detach your steering wheel and throw it out the window, right in front of them. The other driver watches the wheel bounce away in the dust. They now know for a fact that you cannot swerve, even if you wanted to. You have removed your own choice, leaving your fate entirely in their hands. By making yourself helpless, you have gained total control of the situation. The other driver must swerve, or they will die. Your forced madness becomes your ultimate strength. This terrifying strategy exists in places far beyond dusty desert roads. During the Cold War, nations used this exact strategy with nuclear weapons, threatening total destruction to force the other side to back down. They built systems that would fire automatically if attacked, removing their own ability to choose peace at the last second. We also see this in high-stakes corporate negotiations. A chief executive officer might announce a public pledge to never lower their price, burning their own bridge to make the other company yield. They signal that they would rather ruin the deal than back down. When you cannot turn, you force the other person to save you both. It is a dangerous dance on the edge of a cliff, where the most stubborn person wins, and the reasonable person is forced to yield. But when two stubborn players meet, the result is always a tragedy. How do partners divide a treasure when they must agree on every detail, or get absolutely nothing? The Pirate Game. A creaking wooden ship sits under a blanket of cold, silent stars. 5 clever and completely ruthless pirates have just found a chest containing 100 gleaming gold coins. They must decide how to divide this treasure, but their rules of democracy are brutal. The most senior pirate proposes a split. Then all 5 pirates vote. If at least half of them agree, the gold is distributed. If the proposal fails, the leader is thrown into the dark ocean, and the next pirate in rank takes charge to make a new proposal. Every pirate wants to survive, but they also want as much gold as possible. They are all perfect logicians, knowing exactly how everyone else will think. To find the solution, we must look at the end of the game and work backward. Suppose only the 2 most junior pirates are left. The 4th pirate would propose 100 coins for himself, and 0 for the 5th pirate. Since his own vote makes up 50% of the total, the proposal passes, and the 5th pirate gets nothing. Now, suppose there are 3 pirates left. The 3rd pirate knows that if he is thrown overboard, the 5th pirate gets nothing. So he can easily buy the vote of the 5th pirate by offering him just 1 single gold coin. The 3rd pirate proposes 99 coins for himself, 0 for the 4th and 1 for the 5th. The 5th pirate must vote yes, because 1 coin is better than the 0 coins he would get if the third pirate died. Because the second pirate understands this, he knows he needs to secure only 1 other vote to reach 50% when 4 pirates are alive. He knows that if he dies, the 4th pirate will get 0 from the 3rd pirate. So, the 2nd pirate offers 99 coins to himself, 0 to the 3rd pirate, 1 coin to the 4th pirate, and 0 to the 5th. Finally, we arrive at the start with all 5 pirates. The captain, the most senior pirate, needs 3 votes in total to survive. He knows exactly what the 2nd pirate would propose. He sees that the 3rd pirate and the 5th pirate are scheduled to receive absolutely nothing if he dies. So, the captain offers them each just 1 single gold coin to buy their loyalty. The final proposal is shocking. The captain proposes 98 coins for himself, 0 for the 2nd, 1 for the 3rd, 0 for the 4th, and 1 for the 5th. In a world of pure, cold logic, the junior pirates accept this extreme distribution. Yet, when researchers run similar scenarios with actual humans, the results change. People reject these tiny offers out of a deep desire to punish greed. What if a simple dinner with friends turns into a quiet struggle to overspend at everyone else's expense? The unscrupulous diner dilemma. Imagine sitting at a long wooden table in a warm, dimly lit restaurant, surrounded by 10 of your friends. The air is filled with soft laughter, the clinking of glasses, and the rich aroma of baked bread. You are all having a wonderful time. Then, someone suggests splitting the bill equally at the end of the night. Everyone nods in agreement. Suddenly, the way you look at the menu changes. You were planning to order a simple garden salad for $10, but now you notice the premium, dry-aged ribeye steak for $50. If you order the salad, you will still end up paying for a portion of the expensive choices of everyone else. If you upgrade to the steak, the extra $40 is divided among all 10 people. Your personal bill only increases by $4 for a $50 steak. It feels like a massive discount, and it seems entirely rational to choose the steak. This silent calculation happens in the mind of every single person at the table. When the waiter arrives to take the orders, no one chooses the simple salad. Instead, everyone orders the premium steak, along with expensive appetizers and costly desserts. When the final bill arrives, the total is astronomical. Everyone pays far more than they ever intended to spend, leaving the restaurant feeling full but financially strained. The choice that seemed so smart for each individual leads to a terrible outcome for the entire group. This dynamic is a classic example of how shared cost structures drive us to overconsume. We see this play out in massive systems, like health insurance. When an individual feels that their medical costs are absorbed by a giant pool of policyholders, they have a strong incentive to seek expensive treatments or visit doctors for minor issues. The cost is divided among millions of people, making it feel almost free. Yet, when everyone acts on this incentive, premiums skyrocket for everyone. We also see this when corporations release carbon emissions. The profit goes to the company, while the environmental cost is divided among every person on the planet. The incentive is to overconsume the shared resource, even when it leads to mutual destruction. This pattern of behavior shows how easily we fall into traps of self-interest when costs are shared. But what happens when the game shifts from sharing a cost to surviving a conflict? What happens when 2 empires fight a war of patience, spending resources day after day, just to outlast the other? The War of Attrition. Under a heavy blanket of snow in a quiet forest, 2 massive male deer stand in a clearing, their antlers locked together in a tight, tangled grip. Their breath rises in thick white plumes in the freezing air. They are shivering, their muscles burning, their energy draining into the cold ground. Neither deer is actively fighting anymore. They are simply holding on, If one lets go, the other wins the territory and the mates. But every second they stay locked, both pay a heavy price in raw exhaustion and the risk of starvation. This is a game of pure endurance, a silent waiting game where the only resource being spent is time itself. In game theory, we call this the War of Attrition. It is a strategic setup where two players compete for a prize by waiting each other out. The prize could be anything of value, but here is the catch. As time ticks by, both players constantly pay a price just for staying in the game. The cost of the conflict keeps growing for everyone involved, but only one person will walk away with the prize. The loser gets nothing and still has to pay the full price of the time they wasted. This leads to a strange paradox. There is no single, simple strategy that works every time. If you always give up after 10 minutes, your opponent will quickly learn to just wait 11 minutes and win. If you decide to stay forever, you might end up paying a cost that is much higher than the actual value of the prize itself. Because of this, the most stable strategy is actually to be unpredictable. Players choose their waiting times completely at random, making it impossible for their opponent to guess when they will finally break. We see this unsettling dynamic play out in our own world all the time. Think of two massive technology giants locked in a long-term patent war. They spend millions of dollars every month on lawyers, aiming to wear the other side down rather than winning a sudden victory, until one company runs out of money and gives up. We see it in long, grueling labor strikes, where workers lose their wages and factory owners lose their profits day after day, each side waiting for the other to break under the pressure of lost time. It is a battle of who can survive the bleeding the longest. The longer you stay, the more it hurts, yet giving up means all that time was spent for nothing. It is a slow, agonizing test of endurance. How do communities protect a shared pasture when anyone can add another cow? The tragedy of the commons. A lush, vibrant meadow sits under the soft morning sun, carpeted in deep green grass and ringed by ancient trees. This is a common pasture, open to any villager who wants to graze their cows. At first, everything is perfect. A few farmers bring a few cows, the grass regrows easily, and the community thrives. But then, a quiet calculation begins in the mind of one farmer. If they buy one more cow, they get all the profit from selling its milk, while the cost of the grass it eats is shared by everyone in the village. It seems like a logical choice. Soon, every farmer performs the exact same calculation. They all bring another cow, and then another. The pasture cannot keep up with the demand. The lush green starts to thin, revealing patches of dry brown dirt. Soon, the soil turns to dust, the grass dies completely, and all the cows starve. The shared resource is ruined, not out of malice, but out of simple, individual logic. This dynamic reveals a painful conflict between what is good for one person right now and what is good for everyone in the long run. When individuals share a finite resource, the benefit of exploiting it goes entirely to the single person, while the cost of that damage is divided among the whole group. Economists call this the tension between personal utility and shared carrying capacity. Each person receives a high reward for taking more, while suffering only a tiny fraction of the long-term cost. Without clear rules, boundaries, or property rights, ruin becomes the inevitable destination. When everyone acts in their own self-interest, they collectively destroy the very thing they rely on to survive. It is a slow, quiet path to mutual destruction. We see this play out across our entire planet today. This occurs in the vast, deep oceans where massive fishing vessels sweep up entire schools of bluefin tuna. No single nation owns the open sea, so each boat has an incentive to catch as many fish as possible before someone else does. The result is collapsing fish populations and empty oceans. We see it in our atmosphere too. Every time a factory releases carbon emissions, they gain the immediate profit of production, while the cost of a warming planet is distributed across every living being on Earth. It is the same pasture, just on a global scale. Can trust be built in markets through the simple act of giving gifts? The Gift Exchange Game. A quiet, warm wooden workshop stands late at night, long after the other shops have closed. The owner is handing a newly hired worker a pay envelope. Inside is double the usual going rate for this kind of labor. There is no camera watching the workbench. There is no manager looking over the worker's shoulder. The owner simply smiles, hands over the generous wage, and walks away, trusting that the worker will do an outstanding job. In standard economics, this looks like a terrible business decision. Traditional theories suggest that the worker, having already secured the high wage, should put in the absolute minimum effort. After all, effort takes energy, and saving your own energy is the logical choice. If the employer cannot monitor the work, the rational move for the worker is to slack off and enjoy the easy day. Yet, when researchers recreate this scenario in laboratories using a setup called the Gift Exchange Game, they see a completely different side of human nature. In this game, one person acts as the employer and chooses a wage. The other person acts as the employee and chooses an effort level. The higher the effort, the more money the employer makes, but the more it costs the employee in terms of points or real money. If the employer pays only the bare minimum, the employee almost always responds with the lowest possible effort. But when the employer offers a high, generous wage, a strange shift occurs. Most employees voluntarily choose to work hard, giving up their own immediate gains to reward the employer's trust. This behavior directly challenges the old idea that humans are purely selfish calculators. It reveals that we carry a deep, quiet drive for reciprocity. When someone treats us with unexpected generosity, we feel a powerful urge to return the favor. This social instinct acts as an invisible, informal contract. It binds us together far more tightly than any written legal document or surveillance camera ever could. By treating someone well, we often unlock a level of dedication that rules and threats can never produce. What happens when you ask a large group of people to guess a number that depends on what everyone else guesses? The Guess Half of Average Game. Imagine you are sitting in a quiet, dimly lit room with a large group of people. Everyone is given a simple slip of paper and a pen. You are asked to write down a single whole number between 0 and 100. The rules of the challenge are straightforward. The person who guesses closest to exactly 2/3 of the average of all the numbers guessed by everyone in the room wins the prize. Let us think about how to play this game. If everyone chose numbers completely at random, the average of all guesses would be 50. 2/3 of 50 is 33. So it seems natural to write down 33. This is the first step of reasoning, a simple calculation. But then you realize that others are also thinking about this. If everyone else performs that same first step and guesses 33, then the new average of the group will be 33. 2/3 of 33 is 22, so you should guess 22 to stay ahead. But what if they think even deeper? If everyone else goes to that second step, the average becomes 22, and 2/3 of that is roughly 15. This logic loops inward, step after step, like a hall of mirrors. If you carry this mathematical ladder all the way to its logical end, the numbers shrink down, smaller and smaller, until they hit the absolute bottom. The only mathematically stable point where no one can improve their guess is 0. If everyone guesses 0, the average is 0, and 2/3 of 0 is still 0. This is the perfect mathematical equilibrium. Yet, when researchers run this game in real life with real people, Zero almost never wins. In the real world, people do not think infinitely. Instead, they usually stop after one or two steps of reasoning. Most guesses cluster around 21 and 35. This reveals a deep layer of human intelligence and its practical limits. Perfect mathematical logic is useless if you do not account for the limitations of the minds around you. To win, you must not be perfectly rational. You must be just slightly more rational than the average person in the room. If you think too many steps ahead, you lose because you end up playing a game that no one else is playing. You must meet the world where it actually is, not where pure mathematics says it should be. Can a simple travel claim show how we exploit the cooperative instincts of others? The Traveler Dilemma. Imagine two travelers sitting in separate, windowless rooms at an airport security office. They do not know each other, but they share a common loss. The airline has misplaced their luggage, and inside each bag was an identical, rare, antique vase. The airline manager admits the mistake, but does not know the exact value of the antique. To settle the claim, the manager devises a strange game. He tells each traveler to write down a number on a piece of paper, representing the value of the vase. The number must be between $2 and $100. If they both write the exact same number, the manager will pay them both that amount. But if they write different numbers, the manager will assume the lower number is the real value. He will pay both travelers that lower amount. However, there is a catch. The person who wrote the lower number will receive a bonus of $2. The person who wrote the higher number will suffer a penalty of $2. If you are one of these travelers, your mind immediately looks for a way to outsmart the system. Say you believe the other traveler will write $100. If you also write 100, you both get $100. But if you write $99 instead, the manager pays you $99, plus you get the $2 bonus because your claim was lower. That brings your total to $101, while the other traveler gets $97. It seems like a brilliant move. Here is where the logic turns cold and dark. The other traveler is sitting in their room thinking the exact same thing. They know you want to write $99. To beat you, they decide to write $98. If they write 98, they will get 98 plus the $2 bonus, totaling $100, while you end up with 96. This calculation does not stop. If they write 98, you should write 97. If you write 97, they should write 96. This relentless logic forces both of you down a steep, slippery slope. Step by step, the numbers fall. The race to the bottom is swift. Eventually, you both reach the absolute bottom, writing down exactly $2. Game theory suggests that two rational people will walk away with almost nothing, trapped by their own intelligence. Yet when researchers run this experiment with real people, something beautiful happens. Humans do not follow this cold path to the bottom. Instead, the vast majority of people choose to write $100, or very close to it. They choose to trust a stranger, ignoring the logical trap. They reject the mathematical urge to undercut each other, and because they do, both walk away with almost the maximum payout. It turns out that our real-world instinct for cooperation is much stronger than the cold equations of pure logic. How does trust flourish when a third party can easily run away with your investment? The trust game. Imagine you have worked hard for many months to save $1,000. You worked long hours, gave up your free time, and carefully watched your savings grow. Now, you decide to hand every single dollar over to a complete stranger, an investment manager whom you have never met. There is a catch. The moment you give them your money, they have the absolute legal freedom to walk away, keep every single penny, and leave you with absolutely nothing. But there is a twist that makes the gamble tempting. If you choose to send your money, it instantly triples in value as soon as it reaches their hands, growing from $1,000 to $3,000. The manager now holds this entire sum and must decide how much of it, if any, to send back to you. They could split it evenly. They could return your original $1,000 and keep the rest. Or they could simply pocket the entire $3,000 and block your phone number. This is the foundation of the trust game, a famous experiment designed by economists to measure the fragile, invisible bonds that hold our daily lives together. If both of you act purely out of cold, mathematical self-interest, the entire system collapses immediately. The manager, wanting to maximize their own wealth, has no rational reason to return a single dollar to you once they have it. Knowing this inevitable outcome, you, as the investor, should never send a single cent in the first place. You both end up sitting alone with exactly what you started with, missing out on a massive opportunity to create wealth together. Yet when researchers run this experiment in real laboratories with real people, something beautiful and unexpected happens. Most investors choose to send a significant portion of their money, and most managers choose to return a generous amount back, ensuring both parties walk away wealthier than they started. What prevents us from simply taking the money and running? Scientists have found that our human brains are wired for this delicate, ancient dance of risk and reward. When we trust someone, or when we feel trusted by another person, our brains release a chemical called oxytocin. This hormone dampens our fear response and fosters a deep sense of connection. Beyond this biology, deep-seated social norms of fairness and the quiet power of personal reputation act as invisible guardrails in our minds. We are far more than mere calculators running cold equations. We are social creatures who find genuine joy in mutual success and feel a heavy burden of guilt when we betray someone who placed their faith in us. Trust is a risky investment, but it is the invisible glue that makes cooperation possible in a world of strangers. But what happens when the structures we build to help us cooperate end up doing the exact opposite? Can adding a new road to a congested city actually make traffic worse? The Braess Paradox. Imagine a city where thousands of commuters travel from the eastern suburbs to the western business district every single morning. Currently, there are two main routes. The first route goes through the north, starting with a wide, high-speed highway that never gets congested, followed by a narrow bridge that slows down significantly as more cars pile onto it. The second route goes through the south, using the exact opposite setup, starting with a narrow bridge and ending with a wide highway. Because both routes take about the same amount of time, drivers split evenly between them. The commute is slow, but it is predictable and stable. One day, city planners decide to help. They build a brand new, super-fast shortcut directly connecting the two routes. It seems like a triumph of engineering. Now, drivers can theoretically bypass the slower sections entirely. But as soon as the new road opens, a strange thing happens. Instead of making the commute faster, traffic grinds to a complete halt. Everyone is stuck in gridlock, and the average commute time actually increases for everyone. This is known as the Braess Paradox. It happens because every driver behaves rationally and selfishly, looking only for the fastest option for themselves. When the new shortcut appears, it looks like the best choice for every individual driver. So, naturally, everyone chooses it. But when everyone rushes onto the same path, they overload the narrow bridges on both ends of the system. By trying to save themselves a few minutes, they collectively ruin the flow of the entire city. This is a classic example of how individual optimization leads to a worse outcome for everyone, creating a bad Nash equilibrium. In a perfect world, drivers would cooperate and split up, but without a coordinator, self-interest wins. The shortcut becomes an attractive trap. This strange rule applies to far more than just asphalt and concrete. Computer engineers see the exact same pattern in digital networks. Sometimes, adding a high-speed fiber optic cable to a server network actually slows down the speed at which data travels. The packets of data, behaving like selfish drivers, all crowd onto the new link, causing massive digital traffic jams. Even in nature, removing a pathway in a food web can sometimes help a species survive by forcing a more efficient distribution of resources. Planners have had to learn this lesson the hard way. In some major cities, closing a busy highway has actually improved the overall flow of traffic. It forces drivers to disperse across smaller, diverse streets, balancing the load naturally. Sometimes, by taking away an option, the system becomes far more efficient. What happens when two firms cut prices to win customers, only to destroy all their profits? The Bertrand Paradox. A quiet cobblestone street at dawn is cool and still. Two bakeries sit directly opposite each other. The aroma of freshly baked bread fills the morning air. Both bakers make the exact same crusty sourdough loaf. It costs each of them exactly $1 in flour, water, and yeast to bake a single loaf. Initially, both bakers decide to sell their bread for $3. They split the morning crowd evenly, and both go home with a nice profit. But then, one morning, the baker on the left side of the street decides to gain an advantage. He lowers his price to $2.99. It is only a tiny difference, but to the hungry passers-by, a saving is a saving. Suddenly, every single customer walks into the bakery on the left. The shop on the right remains completely empty, the baker staring blankly out the window. The right-side baker watches this from across the street. He cannot let his rival take all the business. The next morning, he slashes his price to $2.98. Immediately, the entire crowd crosses the street to buy from him. The cycle begins. Day after day, they undercut each other by pennies. $2.90, then $2.80, then $2.50. This is the essence of a classic economic puzzle named the Bertrand Paradox. In a simple mathematical model, if two businesses sell the exact same product and customers only care about the lowest price, a relentless price war is triggered. Even though there are only two competitors in the entire market, the price drops all the way down to the exact cost of production. It is a startling outcome. In our story, both bakers eventually find themselves selling their bread for exactly $1. At $1, they make zero profit. They work long, grueling hours just to break even. If either of them raises their price by even a single penny, they will lose every single customer and earn nothing. If they go lower than $1, they will lose money on every loaf they sell. They are trapped in a prison of their own making. In the real world, companies work hard to escape this trap. They do not want to compete on price alone. They use branding to make you feel that their bread is special. They offer loyalty cards to keep you coming back. Or sometimes they silently agree to keep their prices high. Without these strategies, the market is a brutal race to the bottom. How do we prove our hidden qualities to others when simple words are not enough? The signaling game. Imagine a student sitting alone under the warm glow of a desk lamp late at night, surrounded by towering stacks of heavy textbooks, working tirelessly to earn a highly demanding university degree. This person will spend 4 years of intense effort, thousands of hours of sleep-deprived study, and a significant amount of money to acquire a single sheet of paper at graduation. In many cases, this degree might not even teach the specific daily tasks of the job they eventually get. Yet, employers value this credential deeply. This situation highlights a fundamental concept in game theory known as asymmetric information, where one party holds vital information that the other party cannot see. The job applicant knows their own dedication, intelligence, and work ethic. But the employer has no direct way to verify these hidden qualities during a brief interview. To bridge this gap, The applicant must use signaling, while the employer relies on screening to sort through the applicants. For a signal to be effective and believable, it must be costly. If a signal were cheap and easy to obtain, anyone could do it at any time. A low-performing candidate could easily fake the signal, which would render the signal completely useless to the employer. The high cost of the degree, measured in years of intense focus, mental energy, and financial investment, ensures that only individuals with high capability and determination find it worthwhile to complete the journey. They are willing to pay the price because they know it will pay off, whereas a low-performing candidate would find the effort far too difficult and the cost far too high to justify. The cost itself is what makes the information honest. We see this dynamic playing out in the natural world. Consider the male peacock, strutting through the forest undergrowth with a massive, heavy, brilliantly colored tail. This tail makes the bird slow, serves as an easy target for predators, and requires enormous biological energy to grow and maintain. Yet, female peahens consistently select mates with the most extravagant feathers. The tail is an honest signal of genetic health and strength, because a weak or sick peacock simply cannot afford the heavy biological cost of carrying such a burden. In human courtship, we observe the same pattern. A grand gesture of romance, like spending hours cooking a complex meal, acts as a costly signal of genuine interest and devotion. A simple text message requires almost no effort, which makes it a weak, easily faked signal. When information is hidden, words are cheap, but actions that require real sacrifice reveal the true state of the world. What if competitors must decide production volumes simultaneously without knowing the other's exact move? The Cournot Competition. Think about two massive spring water bottling plants sitting on opposite sides of a lush green valley. Every single morning, the owners of these two plants must make a crucial decision before the sun rises. They have to decide exactly how many crates of fresh spring water to load onto their delivery trucks and ship to the central market in the city. In our earlier look at market battles, we saw how cutting prices can lead to a desperate race to the bottom, leaving everyone with zero profit. But here, the game is completely different. The owners do not set the prices. Instead, they choose their physical volume. They decide the quantity. Once all the delivery trucks arrive at the city market, the total supply of spring water is revealed to the public. If both plants flooded the market with thousands of crates, water would be everywhere, and the price would crash to almost nothing. If they both send only a tiny trickle, water becomes scarce, and the price skyrockets. The final price of a single bottle of water is determined by the total amount of water delivered by both companies combined. Each owner must guess how much the other will produce. If plant number 1 decides to produce a moderate amount of crates, plant number 2 will adjust its own volume to maximize its earnings, based on that exact guess. Plant number 1 does the exact same thing in reverse. They dance in a silent choreography of numbers, constantly trying to predict the cargo size of the competitor. Eventually, they reach a stable point where neither owner wants to change their shipment size. This resting point is unique because it does not result in a price war that ruins them both. Instead, the market price settles at a comfortable level that is well above the actual cost of bottling the water. The owners make a healthy, reliable profit, even though they are fierce rivals who never speak to each other. They find a balance in the quiet, unspoken agreement of their output. This volume-based game is exactly how many massive global industries operate. We see it when oil-producing nations decide how many millions of barrels of crude oil to pump out of the ground each month. We see it in giant microchip factories deciding how many silicon wafers to manufacture. By controlling the physical supply, they influence the global price without ever having to touch a price tag. It is a subtle, powerful way to maintain profitability, even if it means consumers end up paying more than they would in a wide-open price-cutting free-for-all. How do two players compete in a game of pure prediction, where one wants to match and the other wants to mismatch? The matching pennies. Imagine standing on a line of bright white paint. You are a goalkeeper, and your feet are planted firmly in the grass. A few yards away, an opponent prepares to kick a ball. You have a tiny fraction of a second to leap to your left or to your right. If you leap to the left and the kicker aims left, you save the ball. If you leap to the right and they shoot to the right, you save the ball. But if you leap one way and they shoot the other, they score a goal. In this high-stakes moment, you are playing a classic conflict of pure prediction. This is the essence of a fundamental concept in game theory known as matching pennies. Imagine two players, each holding a single ordinary coin. They secretly turn the coin to show either heads or tails, and then they reveal their choices at the exact same moment. One player, let us call them the matcher, wins if the coins are both heads or both tails. The other player, the mismatcher, wins if the coins do not match, meaning one is heads and the other is tails. If you analyze this setup, you quickly realize there is no stable, predictable way to play. There is no simple plan that works. If you decide to always choose heads, your opponent will quickly notice this pattern and choose tails to make sure the coins do not match. If you then switch to tails, they will switch to heads. Every time one player makes a predictable move, the other player shifts to defeat them. There is no single choice, no permanent strategy that keeps both players satisfied. To survive in a game like this, you must become entirely unpredictable. You cannot rely on a single favorite choice or a recognizable pattern. Instead, you have to introduce pure randomness into your behavior. You must play heads 50% of the time and tails 50% of the time, flipping a metaphorical coin in your own mind to decide your next move. This is what game theorists call a mixed strategy. By being completely random, you deny your opponent any advantage, making it impossible for them to exploit you. We see this exact behavior play out in professional sports, where athletes must constantly randomize their tennis serves, their baseball pitches, or their penalty kicks, so their opponents cannot anticipate their moves. We also see it in military defense systems, where security patrol routes must be kept random, so that adversaries cannot predict when a specific location will be left unguarded. In a world where predictability equals defeat, randomness becomes your greatest shield. What happens, though, when two people wish to coordinate their plans instead of competing, yet still have different preferences on where to go? The battle of the sexes. Imagine it is a rainy Friday evening. A couple, let us call them Sarah and David, are celebrating their anniversary. They both want to spend the whole evening together, but they have completely different ideas of the perfect night. Sarah has her heart set on a beautiful, quiet evening at the Grand Opera House. David has been looking forward to a loud, high-energy football match. If they go to their preferred events alone, they will both feel lonely and unhappy, because they value each other's company above everything else. If they go together to the opera, Sarah is thrilled, and David is reasonably happy just to be with her. If they go together to the football match, David is ecstatic, and Sarah is happy to share his excitement. The worst possible outcome is that they fail to agree, end up going to separate events, and spend their special night apart in quiet disappointment. This situation represents a classic clash of preferences within a cooperative relationship. It is a game of coordination, but with a difficult twist. Unlike situations where everyone wants the exact same outcome, here the two players want different things, yet they still want to be together. In the language of game theory, there are two stable balance points. Either both go to the opera or both go to the football match. There is no simple mathematical formula to choose between them, because the game itself is balanced in a way that creates constant friction. If they cannot communicate, they face a silent dilemma where trying to please the other might lead to them missing each other entirely. It is a beautiful illustration of how two people who love each other can still struggle to find a common path when their individual desires pull them in opposite directions. How do people solve this in their daily lives? In the real world, we do not stare at each other in silence. We talk. We use communication to negotiate. Sometimes, cultural norms guide us, suggesting that one person gets their choice on this specific anniversary, or we agree to a simple rotation of choices. One partner happily agrees to sit through the opera this week, knowing they will get to choose the football match next month. Real couples navigate this compromise through trust and the expectation of future fairness. They realize that a minor sacrifice today builds a stronger bond for tomorrow, proving that the best strategy is simply learning to share, communicate, and take turns. How do employers weed out lazy workers before they even hire them? The screening game. Imagine you are running a car insurance company. You have a massive problem. When people walk through your front door, you cannot tell who is a careful driver and who is a reckless speeder. If you ask them directly, everyone will say they are the safest driver on the road. You cannot read their minds, and you cannot watch them drive. But you can make them reveal their secrets without saying a single word. You do this by offering them two choices. The first choice is a policy with a cheap monthly payment, but if you get into an accident, you have to pay a very high amount out of your own pocket first. The second choice is a policy with a very expensive monthly payment, but if you crash, the insurance company covers almost everything. How do people choose? A person who knows they are careful, who rarely makes mistakes, looks at the first option. They think, I almost never crash, so I will happily take the cheap monthly payment and accept the risk of a high payout if the rare event happens. A reckless driver looks at the same options. They know they scrape their bumper or speed through yellow lights. They think, I will probably crash eventually, so I absolutely need the policy that covers everything, even if the monthly cost is high. Without asking a single question, you have forced them to sort themselves into two different groups. This is the core of what game theorists call screening. It is very different from signaling. In signaling, the person with the secret information takes a costly action to prove their worth, like going to school for years to get a difficult degree. In screening, the person without the information is the one who designs the choices. They build a smart menu of options, forcing the other side to reveal who they really are through the path they choose. We see this clever design everywhere in our daily lives. Think about how companies set up job offers. A business might offer two different salary plans to new recruits. One plan has a high guaranteed base salary but very small bonuses. The other plan has a low base salary but huge bonuses if you meet high sales goals. A worker who knows they are highly productive and driven will gladly take the second option, confident they will hit the targets. A worker who wants a comfortable, easy pace will choose the first option. Again, the employer did not need to guess who is who. The menu did all the work. We even see this when we buy software. A company might offer a free version of their product with slightly annoying limitations alongside a premium version. They are screening to see who values their time more than their money. By choosing, you tell them exactly how much you are willing to pay. Why do identical stores always cluster right next to each other on the same street corner? The hoteling spatial competition. Let us imagine a beautiful, warm summer day at a very long, straight beach. Sunbathers are spread out completely evenly along the sand, enjoying the ocean breeze. Now, two competing ice cream sellers arrive. Let us call them George and Sarah. They sell the exact same vanilla ice cream at the exact same price. At first, to be polite and split the beach evenly, George sets up his cart 1/4 of the way from the left end, and Sarah sets up her cart 1/4 of the way from the right end. This way, every single person on the beach walks to the closest cart, and both sellers get exactly half of the total customers. But George wants to make more money. He realizes that if he nudges his cart a little bit toward the middle, he will still keep all of the customers to his left, while stealing some of Sarah's customers on his right. The next morning, George sets up his cart slightly closer to the center. Sarah quickly notices her sales dropping. To protect her share of the beach, she also moves her cart toward the middle. Day after day, they keep shifting closer and closer to the center. Eventually, they are standing side by side, right in the exact middle of the beach. This is the core of spatial competition. By standing in the center, neither seller can steal customers from the other by moving, because they have secured their half of the beach. If George moves even slightly to the left, Sarah will capture the entire right side. This simple idea explains why we see competitor stores clustering together in real life. Think about fast food joints, gas stations, or car dealerships that set up right across the street from one another. While it seems silly to set up next to your rival, it is actually a stable strategy to protect your market share. We also see this in politics. During an election, political candidates often start with very different ideas to win over their core supporters. But as the final vote gets closer, both candidates tend to shift their messages toward the moderate middle. They do this to capture the largest group of undecided voters in the center, while assuming their loyal followers on the far left or far right have nowhere else to go. So, when you see rivals behaving almost identically, they are not copying each other out of laziness. Instead, they are locked in a game where the safest place to stand is right next to the competition. Can a tough guy win by ordering quiche just to prove he is not afraid of a fight? The beer quiche game. Imagine walking into a rowdy, dimly lit tavern in a rough frontier town. You are a traveler, tired and hungry, and you want to sit in peace to eat breakfast. In this room, a bully stands in the corner, watching every newcomer. This bully wants to pick a fight, but only with someone weak. He wants to avoid anyone strong who might hurt him. You have a choice for breakfast. You can order a warm, delicious slice of quiche, which you actually prefer, or you can order a heavy, bitter glass of beer for breakfast. If you order the quiche, the bully might think you are soft and challenge you to a duel. If you order the beer, which you dislike, it sends a message. The bully thinks only a tough, seasoned fighter would drink warm beer at dawn. So, you choose the beer, forcing yourself to swallow the bitter liquid, and the bully decides to leave you alone. This is the classic setup of the beer quiche game, a famous thought experiment about how we signal our true nature to others. The core idea is that to convince someone you are strong, you must choose an action that a weak person would find too painful or too costly to copy. A weak traveler might hate beer so much, or find the act of drinking it so repulsive, that they simply cannot bring themselves to do it, even to avoid a fight. The cost of the signal protects its honesty. In game theory, this leads to two different paths. The first is a separating equilibrium, where different types of people make completely different choices. The strong drink beer, the weak eat quiche, and the bully can easily tell them apart. But there is also a pooling equilibrium, where everyone does the exact same thing to hide their identity. If the weak traveler knows the bully will attack anyone who orders quiche, the weak traveler will force themselves to drink the beer too. Everyone drinks beer, and the bully is left guessing. We see this same dance play out in the high-stakes world of corporate business. Imagine a successful company that faces the threat of a hostile takeover by a larger rival. To signal that they are ready to fight a long, expensive legal battle, the target company might deliberately take on massive amounts of debt or buy up a highly risky business. This move seems reckless and painful, much like drinking beer for breakfast. Yet, it signals to the predator that this company is tough and will make any acquisition far too costly. The predator backs down and the signal works. What happens when a boss cannot tell if their employee is working hard or just pretending? The principal agent problem. Imagine you are lying on a sandy beach, thousands of miles away from home. You paid a team of contractors a flat fee to remodel your kitchen while you are gone. You picture them working hard, but instead, they are sitting on your front lawn, drinking sodas and scrolling through their phones. They only work when they feel like it, knowing you cannot see them. This simple, irritating tension lies at the heart of a massive economic puzzle known as the principal agent problem. The principal is the person who owns the goal, like you, the homeowner. The agent is the person hired to do the work. In a perfect world, the agent would care about your goals as much as you do. In reality, their interests are naturally different from yours. You want the highest quality work done as quickly as possible. They want to make the most money with the least amount of effort. Because you are not there to watch them, they have no real incentive to push themselves. You cannot easily measure their effort, only the final result. This gap creates what economists call agency costs. Every hour you spend worrying and every dollar you spend on security cameras to monitor them is a cost born from a lack of trust. And this dynamic shapes the entire structure of the modern corporate world. Think of shareholders who own a massive company. They cannot manage daily operations, so they hire a chief executive officer to run the business. The shareholders want the stock price to grow over many years. The executive, however, might only care about hitting short-term targets to secure a massive bonus before moving to another job. To solve this clash of desires, companies try to align the incentives of the agent with those of the principal. They offer stock options, so the manager only profits when the owners profit. They offer commissions, paying salespeople only when they make a deal. They set up complex performance reviews and layers of middle management to track effort. Yet, every solution is imperfect. Monitoring too closely destroys morale, while giving too much freedom invites laziness. It is a delicate balance of carrot and stick, a constant dance of trying to make someone else care about your dream as much as you do. This quiet battle plays out in office buildings, sports teams, and governments every single day. It makes us question how much control we ever truly have when we rely on others to act on our behalf. Why do lobbying firms spend millions of dollars just to win a contract that is worth far less? The rent-seeking trap. Imagine a quiet, dimly lit hallway with polished marble floors and tall mahogany doors. Along these walls, men and women in expensive suits wait patiently in the shadows. They are not here to invent a new medicine. They are not here to build a better smartphone or design a cleaner engine. They are here to whisper in the ears of lawmakers. They represent massive corporations, and they are spending millions of dollars to secure a single rule, a tiny line of text in a law book, that will grant them an exclusive right to sell a product without any competition. This is the dark heart of rent-seeking. In the world of game theory, we often divide human action into two distinct categories. There is wealth creation, where you bake a bigger pie so everyone can have a larger slice. Then there is wealth extraction, where you spend all your energy fighting to grab the biggest slice of the existing pie, even if the pie itself gets ruined in the struggle. To understand how this works, we can look at a simple mathematical model. Imagine a government official holds a special license that guarantees $5 million in profit to whoever owns it. Two rival companies compete for this license. They do not compete by making better goods or lowering their prices. Instead, they hire lobbyists, run political campaigns, and host expensive dinners to win the favor of the decision maker. Company A spends $2 million trying to win. Company B spends $3 million. In the end, one company wins the $5 million prize, but together they have spent $5 million just fighting over it. The entire value of the prize is completely eaten up by the cost of the struggle. When businesses spend their resources to gain a special privilege, a tax break, or a monopoly, that money disappears from the productive world. It does not go to scientific research. It does not go to higher wages for workers. It does not go to making lives better. It is entirely wasted on building walls to keep competitors out. This waste is a permanent drain on the wealth of our societies, leaving everyone poorer. Over time, this behavior causes deep damage to our world. When the rules of the game reward extraction over creation, the smartest minds stop trying to build new things. They focus instead on finding clever ways to protect old wealth. The system stagnates and the world becomes a poorer place. Why does the presence of a few selfish people cause an entire group to stop cooperating? The Free Rider Dilemma. Walking through a beautiful municipal park on a crisp autumn evening offers a quiet peace. You feel the crunch of golden leaves under your boots, and you admire the clean pathways and the well-kept benches. Perhaps you have traveled from a distant city and never paid a single penny of local taxes to support this green space. Yet, the gates are wide open, and no one stops you from enjoying the cool breeze under the trees. This is the very essence of a non-excludable good. Once a park is built or a city street is swept, it is physically impossible, or at least highly impractical, to prevent someone from enjoying its benefits, even if they contributed absolutely nothing to its creation. In the quiet math of game theory, this structural property invites what strategists call rational neglect. If you can enjoy a warm street lamp or clean air for free, the logical choice for a self-interested individual is to let someone else pay the bill. But if everyone acts with this cold individual logic, the park falls into ruin, the streets fill with waste, and the streetlights go dark. To prevent this silent collapse of our shared spaces, human communities have had to design clever, centuries-old systems of governance. We use the heavy hand of legal coercion, forcing contributions through compulsory taxes, converting a voluntary choice into a strict civic obligation. When formal laws are too clumsy, we rely on the subtle, powerful pressure of social shaming. We create invisible boundaries and quiet expectations, making the free riders feel the heavy weight of community disapproval when they take more than their fair share. Today, this ancient struggle has moved from physical streets into the digital realm. Consider the invisible infrastructure of the global internet. Millions of websites and essential applications run on open-source software, built by passionate volunteers who share their code freely with the world. Multi-billion-dollar technology corporations build massive empires using these free digital building blocks, often without giving a single dollar or hour of developer support back to the original creators. When a critical security flaw threatens the global network, we suddenly realize how fragile this digital commons truly is. Balanced on the shoulders of just a few exhausted programmers working without pay, we find ourselves asking how we can sustain a modern, connected world when the temptation to take without giving is coded so deeply into our strategic behavior. How do two species survive in an ecosystem where one must act aggressive and the other passive? The Hawk-Dove Game. High in the pale, cold sky, two large birds of prey circle a single, fresh carcass lying on the ground below. Food is scarce in this harsh winter, and survival depends on this meal. Each bird must make a silent, immediate choice about how to behave once they land on the snow. One option is to play the hawk, attacking instantly and fighting with absolute aggression until they either win or suffer a severe injury. The other option is to play the dove, engaging in a peaceful display, posturing to look big, but immediately retreating if the opponent escalates to real violence. If a hawk meets a dove, the hawk wins the entire meal easily, while the dove retreats completely unharmed but empty-handed. If two doves meet, they share the food peacefully after a brief, harmless standoff. But if two hawks meet, they fight with vicious intensity. They claw and tear at one another, leaving the winner bleeding and the loser severely injured or dead. The physical cost of this violent clash is far greater than the value of the food they are fighting over. In the grand theater of nature, a population made up entirely of hawks would destroy itself through constant costly injuries. A population of pure doves, however, is ripe for invasion, because a single aggressive hawk would arrive and easily dominate every encounter, rapidly multiplying. Biologists realized that neither strategy can completely eliminate the other. Instead, nature settles into a beautiful balance known as an evolutionary stable strategy. This balance is a mix of both behaviors. In a stable population, a specific percentage of individuals will act as hawks, while the remaining percentage of individuals will act as doves. If the number of hawks rises too high, the cost of their frequent, bloody battles reduces their average success, allowing the peaceful doves to thrive and increase in number once again. If the doves become too common, the few hawks feast easily, driving their numbers back up. The system naturally oscillates toward a stable ratio where both strategies coexist. This ancient evolutionary balance helps explain the rich variety of human temperaments and social hierarchies. We see this dynamic play out in our workplaces, our communities, and our families. Some people naturally lean toward aggressive, dominant behavior, while others prefer cooperation, harmony, and avoiding conflict. Human society does not benefit from having only aggressive leaders or only passive followers. We require both temperaments to maintain a functioning social ecosystem. The tension between cooperation and competition is not a temporary phase, but a permanent, stable state of our existence. How do small coastal fishing villages protect their ocean stocks from absolute depletion? The common pool resource. Imagine walking up a high, quiet path in the Swiss Alps, where the mountain air is cold and the meadows are a brilliant, vivid green. For hundreds of years, local farming families have shared these beautiful alpine pastures. They have managed this precious space without any rules handed down by a king, a state, or a distant government. They bring their cows to graze on the exact same grass, season after season, yet the meadows remain healthy, lush, and beautiful. Traditional economic models tell us this is impossible. Those models suggest that individuals will always destroy a shared resource out of short-term self-interest. But here, high in the quiet mountains, human history tells a completely different story. This enduring success is not a mystery. It works because of clever, organic rules designed directly by the people who actually work the land. This demonstrates the power of what is called community-led polycentric governance. Instead of relying on a distant government to make laws or selling the land to private corporations, the villagers sit down together and talk. They establish clear, visible boundaries for the pasture. Together, they decide exactly how many cows each family is allowed to bring up the mountain, ensuring the delicate grass has plenty of time to regrow and recover. They have a shared understanding that protecting the land today means survival for their children tomorrow. The secret to keeping everyone honest lies in local monitoring and fair, gradual penalties. The farmers monitor each other directly. Because they live side by side in the same valley, it is easy to see if someone tries to bring extra animals. When a neighbor breaks a rule, the community does not start with heavy-handed punishments or involving outside authorities. Instead, they use small, stepping stone penalties. A first mistake might lead to a gentle warning over dinner or a tiny fine. If the bad behavior continues, the consequences slowly grow more serious. This gradual system keeps the atmosphere cooperative rather than hostile. Because everyone has an equal voice in changing the rules, the entire system feels deeply fair and balanced. This cooperative approach challenges the old belief that only top-down government control or complete privatization can prevent ruin. Real-world research has shown that everyday people can cooperate and protect their shared world when they are given the power and responsibility to govern themselves. By talking, watching over one another, and agreeing on flexible local rules, communities can manage complex resources beautifully for generations without any outside intervention. What happens when your gain must equal my exact loss, with absolutely no room for compromise? The zero-sum game. Imagine a dimly lit tournament hall late at night. The room is silent except for the rhythmic wooden click of a chess clock and the soft slide of felt on polished mahogany. Two players sit opposite each other, their eyes locked on the 64 black and white squares between them. In this quiet, tense space, there is absolutely no room for compromise. Every square inch of territory one player claims is stolen directly from the territory of the other. If one person wins, the other must lose. If they agree to draw, they split the single point between them. The total value of the game is fixed, locked at exactly 1. One player gains a positive 1, the other receives a negative 1, and when you add those numbers together, you get 0. This is the pure definition of a zero-sum game. It is a harsh, uncompromising math, where your progress is entirely fueled by another person's defeat. In this arena, cooperation is mathematically impossible, because any helping hand you extend is a direct blow to your own chances of survival. There are no mutual benefits, no shared victories, and no common ground. Yet, this brutal math does something strange to our minds. We are so deeply shaped by ancient evolutionary struggles for scarce resources like fresh water, shelter, and fertile land, that we tend to see the entire world through this lens, even when it does not apply. We look at a global trade deal and worry that if another nation prospers, our own country must be losing wealth. We look at a partner in a relationship and feel that if they get their way on a quiet evening, we have somehow lost a piece of our own freedom. We look at co-workers and feel that their success somehow diminishes our own value. We treat life as a series of battles over a pie of fixed size, forgetting that we can often work together to bake a larger pie. Living in a constant state of zero-sum thinking is emotionally exhausting. When you view every single human interaction as a battle, you can never truly lower your guard. Every conversation becomes a negotiation, every colleague becomes a threat, and every friend becomes a potential competitor. The constant tension slowly drains our empathy, leaving us feeling isolated in a world of enemies. We trade the quiet peace of cooperation for the exhausting, lonely labor of endless defense. But what happens when the game itself is rigged by silence? How do markets fail when sellers know everything about a product and buyers know absolutely nothing? The asymmetric information game. Imagine walking onto a dimly lit used car lot late in the evening. The gravel crunches beneath your shoes as you wander between rows of polished sedans. They all look pristine under the glowing neon signs, their paint reflecting the warm night air. But a cold feeling settles in your chest. You know that behind one of those shiny metal hoods lies a machine with a cracked engine block or a failing transmission. A hidden defect, a lemon. The seller knows exactly which car is a disaster and which one is a gem. You, however, are completely in the dark, trying to read a story that has been hidden from you. This simple imbalance of knowledge is the heart of asymmetric information, a concept that earned economist George Akerlof a Nobel Prize. Let us explore how this imbalance destroys trust and collapses entire markets from the inside out. Suppose there are only two types of cars on this lot. Half of them are high quality, worth $10,000 to a buyer. The other half are lemons, worth only $5,000. Because you cannot tell them apart, you will not risk paying the full $10,000. You do not want to be the fool who paid a premium price for a piece of junk. Instead, you play it safe. You split the difference and offer an average price of $7,500. But consider what happens next. The owners of the high-quality cars know their vehicles are worth $10,000. They refuse to sell for $7,500, so they pack up, drive away, and leave the market. Only the owners of the lemons are happy to accept your offer, because they are getting more than their cars are actually worth. Suddenly, the high-quality cars are completely gone. The market is now flooded entirely with lemons. When buyers realize this, they drop their offers even lower until the entire market collapses. The honest sellers are driven out, leaving only the bad actors behind. This is known as adverse selection, and it happens in insurance, online marketplaces, and hiring. To survive, we have to build bridges across this gap of ignorance. We rely on independent vehicle inspections, ironclad warranties, and trusted community reviews to prove a product is real. Without these tools of trust, cooperation fails, and we are left stranded in a market of broken promises. But why do we sometimes stay in a bad situation, even when the reality is revealed? Why do we keep spending money on projects we know are failing, just because we already started? The Escalation Game. Imagine sitting in a dark theater, watching a film that is clearly terrible. The plot makes no sense, the acting is painful, and you are thoroughly bored. Yet you stay in your seat for another hour and a half. You tell yourself that you paid $15 for the ticket, so you must get your money worth. By staying, you do not get your money back. Instead, you lose your precious time as well. This is a classic human trap. We often double down on a bad choice, simply because we have already invested our resources into it. In the world of big businesses and governments, this trap is known as the escalation game. It is a psychological loop where organizations pour more money, time, and reputation into a failing project. They do this because admitting failure feels far worse than continuing the struggle. When a company designs a new product that is clearly failing in the market, the leaders often approve even more funding. They hope a new marketing campaign or a minor redesign will salvage the original investment. They are trying to save face, but they are only digging a deeper hole. The situation becomes even darker when two competitors get locked into this cycle together. Imagine two massive technology firms developing similar software. Both realize the market has shifted and the software is no longer useful. If one firm quits now, they lose face and hand a public victory to their rival. So they both keep spending millions of dollars, hoping the other will break first. They are no longer playing to win. They are playing simply to avoid the embarrassment of losing first. It becomes a destructive spiral, where both sides destroy their own wealth just to protect their pride. How do we break free from this self-destructive cycle? The most effective strategy is to change who makes the decisions. If the managers who started the project are the ones deciding whether to continue, they will almost always choose to escalate. They are too emotionally tied to the original choice. To fix this, organizations must bring in independent decision-makers who have no connection to the past. These new leaders can assess the situation with fresh eyes and make the hard choice to cut losses immediately. In our next chapter, we will examine what happens when the stakes are raised even higher. What happens when both players have a dominant strategy that leads to a mutually terrible deadlock? The Deadlock Game. Imagine two opposing political parties sitting across from each other in a dimly lit conference room. Outside, a popular bill is waiting, a piece of legislation that the public desperately wants. If it passes, it would help millions of everyday citizens. Yet, the room remains completely silent. The negotiators stare at each other with cold, unblinking eyes. Neither side will sign the papers. Why? Because signing the bill means their rivals get to share the spotlight and claim a victory. They would rather watch the entire bill fail and blame the other side than cooperate to pass it. They actively prefer a broken system over a shared success. This is the unsettling reality of the Deadlock Game. It looks like a standard conflict, but under the surface, the mathematics of the human mind are far more stubborn. In other trust scenarios, like the classic prisoner dilemma, both players actually want to cooperate if they could only be sure the other person would do the same. They want to trust, but they are held back by the deep fear of betrayal. In those situations, walking away is a shield, a defensive move to protect yourself from being exploited. But in a deadlock, the gears turn in a much more cynical way. Here, refusing to cooperate is not a shield. It is the desired outcome. You do not walk away out of fear. You walk away because you genuinely prefer the situation where both sides refuse to work together over any scenario where you cooperate. If you cooperate, and they cooperate too, you feel like you have compromised your values. You have allowed your rival to win. To your brain, that feels far worse than leaving the table with absolutely nothing. This structure turns our normal understanding of human cooperation upside down. We like to think that deep down, everyone wants to find common ground. We tell ourselves that if we could only talk more, or if we could build enough trust, we could solve any disagreement. A deadlock reveals a darker perspective. Some conflicts do not happen because of a misunderstanding. They happen because both sides look at the board and decide that mutual failure is better than mutual success. When walking away is the preferred choice, building trust is both difficult and completely irrelevant. No amount of negotiation can fix a game where both players want the system to fail. It leaves us with a quiet, chilling realization. Some bridges are not broken because of a storm. They are broken because both sides prefer to live on separate islands. How do societies align on standard rules when any choice is fine as long as everyone does the same? The coordination game. Ready? Specify task. The trembling hand equilibrium. Imagine sitting at a chessboard in a quiet room, facing an opponent who has studied every move you could ever make. You reach out to move your knight to safety, but as your fingers touch the polished wood, your hand trembles. The piece slips, landing on a completely different square. You did not mean to make this move, yet there it stands. The entire board is transformed by a simple, physical mistake. In the early days of game theory, players were assumed to be perfect. They were like flawless computers, calculating every outcome without ever blinking. But an economist named Reinhard Selten realized that real humans are not computers. He introduced a beautiful concept called the trembling hand perfect equilibrium. Selten argued that a truly great strategy must survive the reality of human error. It is the realization that even if the chance of a mistake is only 1 in 1,000, we must plan for that possibility. A strategy is only robust if it remains the best choice, even when we assume other players might occasionally slip. If your plan depends on everyone else acting with absolute perfection, your plan is deeply fragile. A small stumble by an opponent could cause your entire strategy to collapse. By choosing a strategy that tolerates minor mistakes, you protect yourself from the chaos of the unpredictable. We look for solutions where, even if a player trembles and makes a minor error, the overall path to the goal does not shatter. Think about how this shapes our world. During the Cold War, nations had to design communication systems that could survive a trembling hand. A false radar report or a tired soldier could easily trigger a war that no one actually wanted. The systems had to be built with buffers, hotlines, and delays to ensure a single accidental slip would not lead to mutual destruction. We see this in modern engineering too. Industrial machines require two hands to operate, so a worker cannot accidentally lose a finger. Airplanes have multiple backup computers. We build these systems because we know the hand will eventually tremble. When we navigate our own lives, we must ask ourselves if our plans can survive a mistake. Are we assuming that everyone around us will always do the logical thing? Or are we prepared for the moment when a finger slips? How can a simple, silent promise of total retaliation keep peace in a repeating game forever? The grim trigger scenario. Two neighboring nations sign a peace treaty on a high mountain summit. The leaders shake hands, but there are no smiles. They both know the unspoken rule of this agreement. If either side crosses the border, even a single time, all diplomacy ends forever. The response will not be a temporary warning or a fine. It will be an endless, devastating conflict that lasts for generations. This is the grim trigger strategy in its purest form. In the world of strategic decisions, this strategy acts as the ultimate threat. When two people or two groups must interact with each other over and over again, they usually want to keep cooperating to earn steady rewards. However, the temptation to betray the other side for a quick, selfish gain is always present. To prevent this betrayal, a player using the grim trigger sends a clear, silent warning. I will trust you, and I will cooperate with you today. But if you betray me even once, I will punish you forever, and I will never cooperate with you again. This extreme stance completely changes how both sides think about their choices. Normally, a person might think about taking a quick advantage today and dealing with the fallout tomorrow. But when facing this unforgiving threat, the math changes completely. The immediate benefit of a single betrayal is completely wiped out by the long shadow of lifetime retaliation. It creates a quiet, tense peace, where both players walk on eggshells, knowing that their partner has a finger permanently resting on a devastating button. Defecting becomes completely irrational because the actor loses the long-term benefit of peace forever. It turns a fragile agreement into a highly stable partnership, held together by the ultimate deterrent. Yet, this strategy has a tragic, fragile flaw. In the real world, actions are not always clear. A simple misunderstanding, a technical glitch on a radar screen, or an accidental border crossing by a lost soldier can look exactly like a deliberate betrayal. Once the trigger is pulled, there is no going back. The strategy has no mechanism for forgiveness, no way to say sorry, and no way to build trust again. The bridge is completely vaporized, leaving a permanent canyon of hostility between them. The two sides are locked in a cycle of mutual destruction forever, even if the initial spark was a complete accident. It is a system built on total peace or total ruin, with absolutely no middle ground. Is there a way to escape this trap? Is there a more forgiving strategy that can sustain cooperation without burning down the bridge forever? The tit-for-tat repetitive play. In the late 1970s, a curious political scientist named Robert Axelrod decided to run a unique experiment. He invited brilliant minds from across the globe to participate in a virtual tournament where programs would play against one another in a repeated game of trust and betrayal. The contestants submitted computer codes that had to decide whether to cooperate or defect in each round. Some strategies were highly complex, written with hundreds of lines of code, designed to trick, exploit, and outsmart their opponents. Others were defensive and suspicious. But when all the rounds were finished, the grand champion was not a complex, predatory algorithm. It was the simplest program submitted, containing a mere 4 lines of code. It was called Tit for Tat. Its creator, Anatole Rapoport, built the strategy on a foundation of basic reciprocity. The rules were straightforward. In the first round, the program always chooses to cooperate, extending a hand of trust. In every round after that, it simply copies whatever the opponent did in the very last turn. If the partner cooperated, it continues to cooperate. If the partner betrayed it, it immediately returns the betrayal on the next move. This elegant strategy succeeded because of 4 distinct qualities. First, it is nice. It never starts a conflict and will never be the first to defect. Second, it is retaliatory. If another player tries to exploit its good nature, it strikes back immediately, ensuring it cannot be bullied. Third, it is forgiving. The moment an opponent stops betraying and offers cooperation again, the program forgives them instantly, returning to a peaceful partnership. It does not carry a grudge into the future. Finally, it is clear. Its behavior is so simple to read that other players quickly realize that cooperation is the only logical path to mutual success. We see this powerful dynamic playing out in the real world all the time. In the business landscape, competing firms often maintain stable prices because they know a sudden price cut will be met with immediate retaliation, while mutual cooperation keeps both profitable. In the natural world, small animals rely on this unspoken rule to survive, sharing food only with those who have shared with them before. This simple cycle of cooperative reciprocity allows trust to thrive even in a harsh environment. But what if the game is played forever, and the players care deeply about the distant future? Is there a mathematical proof that almost any outcome, no matter how unequal or cooperative, can be sustained as long as the players value tomorrow enough? The folk theorem scenario. A dusty, wind-swept outpost sat along the ancient Silk Road 2,000 years ago. A weary merchant carrying precious blue lapis lazuli meets a local trader offering fine, woven silk. There are no police officers patrolling this remote valley, no courtrooms nearby, and absolutely no written contracts to protect them. It would be very easy for one merchant to simply overpower the other, seize the valuable goods, and ride away into the dark desert night. Yet they choose to sit down, share warm tea, and trade fairly. Why do they resist the immediate temptation to steal? The secret lies in the long road ahead. They both understand that this is not their only meeting. They will return to this same oasis next season, and the season after that, and their long-term survival depends entirely on this ongoing, repeating relationship. In the realm of game theory, this ancient human dynamic is explained by a profound mathematical idea known as the folk theorem. Named because it was widely understood by early mathematicians long before anyone officially wrote it down, this theorem explains how stable cooperation can thrive in a world full of self-interested individuals. The mathematics prove that as long as players interact repeatedly with no definite end in sight, and as long as they care enough about the future, almost any cooperative outcome can be sustained indefinitely. At the very heart of this mathematical proof is a concept called the discount factor, which is simply a way of measuring a person's patience. If you are highly impatient, you value a reward right now much more than a reward tomorrow. But if you have a high discount factor, you place a massive, heavy value on the future. You are willing to turn down a quick, dishonest profit today because you want to keep the partnership healthy for 20 years down the line. This simple mathematical balance is the invisible glue holding our modern societies together. It explains the gradual birth of complex social norms, neighborhood customs, and everyday institutional trust. We do not tip our servers at our favorite local restaurant because we fear a lawsuit. We do it because we value the future relationship and the unspoken agreement of mutual respect. Trust is not a magical human virtue. It is the rational, calculated result of patience. When the future is long and valuable, cooperation becomes the most logical choice we can make. But what happens when that long future begins to shrink? How does the looming end of a relationship silently change how we behave today? The shadow of the future. Imagine it is Monday morning and you are starting the very last week of a temporary work contract. By Friday afternoon, you will walk out the door and you will never see your boss or your co-workers again. You have no need for a reference letter, and your final paycheck is already guaranteed. When your alarm goes off, do you leap out of bed to give 110%? Or do you coast, slide in late, and let your mind drift to your weekend plans? Most people would naturally let their effort slip. There is no tomorrow to work for, so today loses its weight. This shift in attitude is a classic example of what thinkers call the shadow of the future. When we know we will interact with someone over and over again, the future casts a long shadow over our current choices. We cooperate because we want to maintain our reputation, build trust, and ensure smooth relationships. We play nice because we know our actions today will have consequences tomorrow. But when we see the end of the road, that shadow shrinks until it vanishes completely. In game theory, knowing the exact endpoint of a relationship creates a strange and unsettling domino effect. Thinkers call this process backward induction. Consider a business partnership designed to last exactly 10 steps. In the 10th step, there is no future left to protect. The rational choice in that final round is to cheat your partner to maximize your own gain. But if your partner is smart, they will realize you plan to betray them in round 10. Therefore, they have every reason to betray you first in round 9. Since both of you now know round 9 is doomed, cooperation collapses in round 8. This cold logic rolls all the way back to the very first day of the partnership. The moment both players know the final day, the entire tower of trust can crumble before it even begins. How do we stop this slow-motion collapse of cooperation? The most elegant solution is to keep the final hour hidden. If a company does not tell its employees the exact date a project ends, or if business partners write contracts with a chance of automatic renewal, the shadow of the future remains long. We behave because we can never be quite sure if we will need each other tomorrow. When the horizon remains open, trust stays alive and healthy. What have 45 scenarios taught us about the quiet battle between our rational minds and our emotional hearts? The final reflection. As the night grows deeper and the room falls quiet, we find ourselves at the end of our long journey through these 45 scenarios. We have watched players betray each other in dark rooms, split piles of gold in silent defiance, and chase each other down empty highways at midnight. Now, a simple question remains. Do these mathematical models show us a true reflection of the human soul, or are they merely a dark shadow cast by our deepest fears? Throughout our exploration, we have seen a constant struggle between cold, calculated self-interest and the warm, quiet voice of our instincts. The mathematicians who drew up these games expected us to act like machines, always calculating the highest payoff, always looking out for number one. Yet, when real people sit down at the table, something beautiful happens. We choose to trust. We share our bread. We punish those who take too much, even when it costs us our own reward. It is as if we have an invisible compass inside us, pointing away from the logical path of pure greed and towards something more sustainable. Why do we do this? Perhaps our ancient ancestors learned that survival is not a game you win by playing alone. We survived the Ice Age and the wild beasts because we learned to look at a neighbor and see a partner, not a competitor. Our feelings of guilt, our desire for fairness, and our capacity for empathy are not design flaws. They are our greatest strengths. They act as a quiet shield, protecting us from the logical traps of self-destruction that pure mathematics would have us walk into. When we share our resources or sacrifice our immediate gain, we are investing in a future where everyone has a chance to survive. When we choose to cooperate, we are not being foolish. We are choosing a different kind of logic, one that values the group over the individual and tomorrow over today. We are building a bridge across the silent divide between us. It is this willingness to cooperate, even when the numbers tell us to betray, that makes us human. So, as you let go of the day and feel the heavy blanket of sleep settle over you, take comfort in this thought. We are more than the numbers on a chalkboard. We are not trapped in a permanent state of war. In a world full of hard choices and hidden traps, our hearts still lean toward cooperation. The person next to you is likely searching for the very same trust that you are. Let your mind rest now, knowing that our shared warmth is the ultimate strategy that keeps the coldness of the world at bay. Sleep deeply and sleep well.